Yep,
Okay.
we're live.
Excellent. Anybody need one last break before we start? This is going to be filmed, and the audio is good. We're going to put it on the district YouTube site. And so the class said they're going to be up here loud, so make it sound like it's super filled. Okay. And because it's smaller, it'll be a little less horrible like this. But still, you should agree.
Good evening. My name is John Pagone, and this is...
Cedar Rebelo.
We are students in the AP Government at McClintock High School. Tonight we are moderating a forum for the Tempe Union High School District Governing Board candidates. The candidates are Mr. Barraza and Mr. Kingsley. Unfortunately, Ms. Steele cannot attend due to her not feeling well. She kindly sends her regards.
Candidates, we will ask you several questions tonight, and you will have 60 seconds to answer the question. We will rotate candidates' order with each question and rotate through alphabetical order. A timer, or more like a gavel, will go off once at 50 seconds so you can wrap up your thoughts. At 50 seconds so you can wrap up your thoughts. At 60 seconds, I will thank you for your comments and call on the next candidate to answer. But first, we will begin with some opening statements.
Mr. Barraza?
1 minute, correct?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Andreas Barraza. I'm on the Tempe Union Governing Board. I'm running for re-election. I grew up in Tempe, Arizona, born and raised. I graduated from Marcos Niza High School. I was a teen parent during that period. My son just graduated in 2018, and that was a wonderful experience seeing the growth in Tempe Union. I want to continue to work with Tempe Union on our disciplinary processes and increasing equity across our district with our courses. I want to continue to build programs and innovate our classrooms, and I really encourage everyone to vote yes for the bond override and district additional assistance. It's very important to make sure that we can innovate our classrooms for the 21st century, and that's why I'm running for Tempe Union. I hope to win the vote tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza. Mr. Kingsley?
Thank you, McClintock, for hosting this candidate forum. Thank you, students, district leaders, community members. I'm looking forward to your questions. My name is Stephan Kingsley, and I'm a native from Arizona. I come from a family of educators. My dad, in fact, has been a teacher for over 41 years. I was an English teacher for 15 years, the last 3 years at Corona del Sol, and I'm currently a candidate for a PhD in Industrial and Organizational Psychology at Grand Canyon University. I left teaching to run for the board so I could set up my own education consulting company to help school districts be even better. I want to create positive change in education at a larger scale, both by serving on the school board and also supporting other schools. As a prospective board member, I will only make decisions that are best for students. I'm going to fight for student safety and well-being, and fight for our quality teachers. I want Tempe Union to become even better as a top-tier district.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley.
Our first question for tonight: what training or educational experience qualifies you to be a school board member? Mr. Barraza, we'll have you go first.
I'm currently serving on our Tempe Union High School District Governing Board. And I think that experience in itself of being on the board is very important. There's a calendar cycle of different things that you need to take care of in terms of when contracts need to be re-signed, when the budget needs to be prepared. And what I bring is the experience of being a board member. Our current board is very new and young, which is wonderful because they bring fresh perspectives. But I am the most senior board member next to Burdetta Hodge, who's our councilwoman, and I'll have 4 years, and the next board members will have 2 years or less. I've been on the Employee Benefit Trust, working with our employee benefits to ensure that our health programs, that their 401ks are being efficiently utilized to be strengthened in our district, and I want to continue, and I believe that experience is very important, especially with vouchers.
I will wrap you up. Mr. Kingsley?
As mentioned before, I'm an experienced educator. The last 3 years at Corona I loved, which is how I fell in love with our school district. I also served on multiple district committees, and I also served as the Tempe Education Association representative for Corona del Sol. When you do that, you hear all of the things that teachers are experiencing. And I also had my own classroom. I have direct insight into what students need and the impact that COVID's had on them and their learning. Also direct experience talking and working with teachers as to how COVID directly affected them. I'm also in my industrial and organizational psychology training. It is specific skills for policy, structures, procedures. My focus is also diversity and inclusion. And this district wants to be inclusive and is inclusive, and I just want to help it be even better.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley.
On to question 2. Mr. Kingsley, you'll go first. What is one thing the district does well?
Only one thing?
Yes.
Oh. I think highlighting student success. I've gone to so many board meetings where we have shown how students are brilliant in creating, whether it's cohorts or teams, being able to solve problems. I think students are brilliant. All of you already know what it is that you're facing. You know how to navigate through it. I feel like we do a good job showcasing that, and I think it's so important for a school district to be student-centered. That's why we're here.
Thank you so much. Mr. Barraza.
I think ultimately we can encompass it, and what I think the district does really well is in its support of its staff and students and ensuring that they're represented and ensuring that they have a voice with our district. You know, our district ensures that our policies are written to reflect our student population, our community members, to make sure that equity is a part of our framework moving forward, whether we're talking about curriculum or we're talking about clubs and accessibility. We're also looking at, you know, how our teachers are represented and what we can do to do better to represent them. We have, in the past, created resolutions to support students in difficult times, and we're going to continue to do those resolutions as a board and as a district. We're going to continue to put out messages when the politics get really rough to ensure that our students feel welcomed, and they are welcome, and that they're reflected in the policies and the curriculum, and that their clubs are thriving, whether it be GSA, Young Dems, or woodworking.
What equity issues exist for students in TUHSD? How would you ensure an equitable education for all students that attend Tempe High, McClintock, Marcos, Corona, Mountain Point, and Desert Vista? Mr. Barraza, we'll have you go first.
We're always looking at our courses and our curriculum across the entire district and what our students need, what our students are desiring in terms of curriculum and representation. We want to make sure that our science classrooms are throughout the district equitable, that when a student walks into any lab that they're inspired to research, they're inspired to take the next step. We want to make sure that every time we have a conversation, if you just watch a school board meeting, you will see that all of us board members and the executive team consistently talk about equitability in terms of all our programs and accessibility. And we're talking about the Innovative Academy, which is going to house a lot of innovation for our students to be able to access. And that's going to be district-wide. And I'm continually pushing for equitable access for all our students, whether they be, you know, a teen parent like myself or AP students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza. Mr. Kingsley.
Would I be able to have you repeat the question again, just so I make sure to answer all of it?
What equity issues exist for students in Tempe Union High School District? How would you ensure an equitable education for all students that attend Tempe High, McClintock, Marcos, Corona, Mountain Point, and Desert Vista?
Our student campuses are very diverse, and I love that they are diverse. With that diversity, their needs are very different. For me, when I think equity, it's making sure that we're differentiating what each school needs. Corona might need something different than Mountain Point. And I think equity covers encompasses student safety and well-being. So that's looking at our discipline, that's looking at the way policies and procedures are implemented in our schools. I think it's accessibility to curriculum, making sure we have systems in place where we are helping all of our students to learn exactly where they are. I also feel like teacher support needs to be there, and that would be their professional developments.
Okay, that will wrap you up.
Thank you so much. On to question 4. What measures have Tempe Union taken to help students, and what additional services should be provided in terms of mental health and suicide prevention? Mr. Barraza first. Or sorry, Mr. Kingsley first.
Okay, I feel like that had a lot of parts. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yes. What measure has Tempe Union taken to help students, and what additional services should be provided in terms of mental health and suicide prevention?
Well, one thing I know that we've done is created a policy for social emotional well-being for students, and I know that we're also doing that for our teachers. I think that's really important that we do that work. I do know as a teacher that there's still in the classroom and on campuses, there can sometimes be a lot of stigma still around mental health. I would love to see continued education around that to sort of take away some of those stigmas. I think it's important for teachers to review with students the ways that they can get help, ask for help. Sometimes we hear people say just one teacher can make a difference. That is true, but we also, I think, can work to build a campus and a culture where it doesn't matter who it is that they talk to. They could talk to the security guard, they could talk to someone in the cafeteria as well as a teacher, just making it more accessible.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley. Now to Mr. Barraza.
It encompasses a multi-tiered system of support that the district has created, along with academic support for ACTs and our course, building our course equity. When you look at a multi-tiered system of support, it's a really great framework because it identifies students, and students can seek help and know where they need to be in terms of academics or counseling support or extracurriculars. And I think it's really important that we look at how the student interaction is throughout their entire experience in Tempe Union. And so the multi-tiered system of support includes Care 7, includes our counselors, includes academic interventionists, it includes our SROs, and ultimately they work together to identify and see how we can help to ensure that not only our student population is emotionally well, but they're also achieving their academic goals and they're living their best at Tempe Union, and they have the support. And look at your IDs,
Thank you,
in
Mr.
the back.
Barraza.
We have counselor numbers.
Thank you.
What is the ideal way to prepare high school students to be in the real world if they make the decision not to attend college? Mr. Barraza, we'll have you go first.
Our career and technical education courses are incredible. We have them throughout our entire district, and you can actually access them from different campuses. Career and technical education is very important because it's vocational. It also provides often dual enrollment college credit. So there's a decrease in student loan debt if they do want to go towards the college route. We're looking at students and we're saying college ready, not college bound. We want to make sure that they have all their academic achievement at the highest priority, but they also enjoy culinary arts, robotics, construction technology, that they can get vocational certificates, and that they're working with outside companies and mentors to be able to create those pathways for them to get into industries. We have students in construction technology that graduate with $45,000 starting, and they're going to get their education with those companies because they need them now, they want them. And so we're going to continue to look at our partnerships, whether it be Google or whether it be a nonprofit or a local small business, to ensure our students have that access.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza. Mr. Kingsley?
I love everything that Andrea said. I actually attended a technical college or technical program before going to get my bachelor's. I was a medical assistant and did that for a good 3 to 4 years. So I know the value of that firsthand. I do agree that partnerships are important. I do think they need to be student-driven in order to be successful so that you can have that engagement. That's going to help with the mentorship that can be there. That way, students can decide whether or not they want to go into engineering, and then that determines who it is that they partner with, or if they go into the medical field. And I think that's important to let them know that there are options, and they can just have even if it's just a time frame where they wait and then go to college like what I did, I think all of it's really worthwhile.
Thank you so much. On to question 6. What changes would you try to implement to make education more enjoyable for the students while supporting their growth and success? Mr. Kingsley?
I love this question. Again, very student-driven, interest-driven. I think our Innovation Academy, I'm really excited about it, but as a teacher, I would use everything that the Innovation Academy is doing. I would have my students working in cohort groups. I would do problem-based learning. I would teach them how to critically think and listen to each other so that they could be invested in their learning process, and it helps so much with student discipline or those transition periods from one thing to another. And students absolutely loved it, and they thrive in that sort of environment. I forgot the other part of the question.
What changes would you try to implement to make education more enjoyable for their
Yes.
students while supporting their growth and success?
Thank you. And that's where I think the curriculum and professional developments really come in, because a lot of our good teachers are doing that already, so it's a matter of highlighting that. It's a matter of making sure that our professional developments are encouraging the work that's already done.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley.
Thank you.
Now on to Mr. Barraza.
With the growing...
I think that partnerships are important because they build, really ultimately your students want to be able to work on real life applications in a real environment, and the partnerships allow that. We have Intel engineer that comes into our classrooms at Mount Point twice a week and supports the students and is a teacher's aide. I think being able to work with industry leaders and working on those projects and having skin in the game is really important for the motivation and seeing how it actually works out. Intramural sports are important too. I was a teen parent. I didn't have the ability to play baseball as a team sport. I couldn't commit every day after school, but I would have loved to have been able to play with my peers, you know, and in an unconventional way. And I think it really does growth, mentorship, team building. And I really believe that we need to include all our students. You know, it was actually Amanda Steele, as a parent, who would call me as a board member, that says we need accessibility for all our programs, for all our students. And I think we need to start there with intramural sports and include them. I think that's a great way to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza.
With the growing teacher shortage, what should Tempe Union do to attract and retain the most highly qualified teachers? Mr. Barraza, we'll have you go first.
I think we're always looking at cutting-edge ways to whether it be performance pay or whether it be accessibility to programs, and we're trying to ensure that teachers have the ability to grow their programs, grow the projects that they're doing, and encourage them. You know, we have the first robotics program in our district, and that's not because it came down from a trickle system through a district. It's because a teacher took initiative of it. And we have a lot of competitions and programs because teachers have asked for it, and we need to encourage that ability. We also need to make sure that they understand that they matter here, that we respect the profession, and that we're always trying to ensure that their classrooms are at the best, because teachers want to teach where they're valued and where they have classrooms that are fulfilled with teaching materials and resources.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza. Mr. Kingsley?
I think one of the biggest ways we can support teachers in order to retain them. I love starting with pay, and I love fighting for smaller class sizes, but research really shows that the 3 reasons teachers get burned out, and this was before COVID, is lack of communication from principals, the climate and culture on campuses, and then also professional developments that aren't effective. Because we're stacking more work on to teachers that may not be relevant to them, to their subjects. Post-COVID, we can't go back to business as usual. There needs to be an understanding on all levels, from administration to the district office, that there's just a lot. And if we're gonna meet our students first by building relationships and tending to their well-being, and then focusing on a curriculum, we can still prepare them for testing.
Wrap
but
up your thoughts.
it needs to be at a slower pace.
Thank you so much. On to question 8. This question will have a follow-up question, so you will be offered 2 60-minute time periods, 1 for each question. All right, Mr. Kingsley, we'll have you go first. Your first question is, what are your opinions on students representing different genders and sexualities on campus?
I think it's wonderful that when students are confident enough to show who it is that they are. Being a transgender man, I know what that's like to sort of, I understand who I am inside, but then I'm not seen. And legislation is making things harder for students especially who identify as transgender or non-binary in our schools. So there are some real safety aspects with that. But I think encouraging understanding among peers, working with our teachers to show them ways how they can honor and see a student for who it is that they are, and then encourage them. That's probably one of the best ways, because it's really, really difficult thing to navigate through personally. And everyone's on their own journey.
Thank you so much. Your second question is, do you think Tempe Union staff in general are adequately accommodating LGBTQ+ students, and how can the discrimination on the part of students be effectively reduced?
Ooh. This is a hard one to answer in 60 seconds. I can't speak for every campus. I can speak for Corona. Corona is a very large campus. Many students in general feel like they get lost. Our LGBTQ students, there was a smaller group of students. A lot of teachers, especially knowing my personal story, they would come up to me and they would say, how can I be more inclusive? How can I learn how to treat my students in a way where they're seen? So I think education for teachers around that would be really good. As for students, again, it's just you have to be consistent about visiting it. In the classroom, I would stop the conversations if someone was starting to be sarcastic or bullying in a certain way. I established a social contract with how we treated each other there, and I was consistent in it, so.
Now, Mr. Barraza.
Can you repeat the question, just because there's 2 parts?
Yes. What are your opinions on students representing different genders and sexualities on campus?
All students are valued, that's period for me and the district, and respected. This has to be a safe place for everyone. That's the only way we create a safe environment as a school district. We as a board and as a district have ensured that we work towards creating policies that are inclusive, that wherever there's an omission of maybe a name or maybe an identity, or for example, family, the family dynamic is different. We have peers raising their siblings, and we have refugee populations. We have a lot of students that we want to make sure that they understand that they're valued here. So when it comes to sexual orientation, gender, religion or anything otherwise. Every student is valued, and anytime that it comes up for a discussion, with the community, we ensure that we stand by our student population. We're very vocal about that, very public about that.
Thank you so much. Your second question is, do you think Tempe Union staff in general are adequately accommodating LGBTQ plus students? And how can the discrimination on the part of students be effectively reduced?
I'm sorry, that second part?
How can the discrimination on the part of students be effectively reduced?
So I believe that our district staff is very much they understand, that every student matters. I don't think we have a debate about that at all. I think that's one thing that we all solidify in our mindset. And anytime there are issues pertaining to a student and who they are, we get in front of it. I've talked to Dr. Mendeval about the recent legislation and what we can do to make sure that our student population feels valued and that our transgender students feel that they're safe and they're protected here. What we need to do is expand access to really, I want to see a district-wide GSA. I want to see staff members get involved. I think there should be more recognition throughout the year, for students and staff. And we should take pride in who we are all the time. And I really feel that that's what we do at Tempe Union, and I feel proud about our staff here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Barraza.
Next question. How would you plan to help schools protect themselves against school shootings? Mr. Barraza, we'll have you go first.
A safe environment requires that we're a community, that we respect, that we value each other. Safe schools start with a community environment that is strong, so we need to be able to foster that we need to be able to foster relationships with one another. The district works with our cities, Phoenix and Tempe, to ensure that we have good relationships in terms of when we have a phone call or a social media threat, we're able to assess it and work with our city council members and our police departments to understand whether this is a credible threat, whether we need to shut down schools, which we have based off of social media threats. It's a very different environment, and we have to have more conversations, whether it be about police brutality, whether it be about identity for the students, whether it be about bullying or academic success. It's very important that we continue to have these conversations and that everyone feels valued, because that's how we get through a day safely. Safety is everyone's responsibility.
We'll have you wrap up your thoughts. Mr. Kingsley, you have the floor.
I do agree that a strong community is really important, but I think policies and procedures and just making our drills, for example, more efficient, whether that's fire drills or lockdown drills, also doing them at different times of the day, I think are really important. I think communication is super important. What do students do? What do teachers do? Who can call the lockdowns? Checking the physical aspects of the school, such as the doors, which ones don't have locks, which do. What are the entryways like? Making sure we have systematic ways of being able to check hallways. And Tempe Police, I know over the summertime, they always do a really good job, at least at Corona, practicing all of that. But holistically, I think
Please wrap up your thoughts.
we have to look at all those aspects.
Thank you so much. Okay, so on to question 10. Do you think Tempe Union should keep SRO, student resource officers, on campus? Why or why not? Mr. Kingsley, you will go first.
I feel like safety looks and feels different for each student. And again, when I think about our Tempe campuses and the ways that they are diverse, again, based on a student's experience, sometimes their culture, sometimes their way of being, the perception of SROs may not necessarily be that they are safe. Some schools, there may be the perception that SROs, and the presence of SROs are safe. So I know our board currently has a resolution asking that we look at the data behind this. I think that's really important. We need to form committees. Everybody needs to be there. We need to have the right voices and perspectives there, including SROs, to work through that, to really see what the needs are. Just in the vein of the fact that, you know, in the spirit of safety looking and feeling different for each person. So that's how to answer that right now.
Thank you so much. Mr. Barraza.
Every year we revise our SRO program, and we constantly make them into counselor-based officers when they come into our district. And they work with Care 7, they work with our students, and they take refreshers and counseling services, and they're very much a part of the community. When you remove them from the equation, we are required by law to contact law enforcement anytime there's a safety issue with a student, or a student lets us know something that's detrimental. We have to contact law enforcement. At that point, we bring the uniformed officer who is trained to patrol our communities, who's trained to assess an incident and write incident reports. We want the SRO in our program in our campuses because they have relationships with the students, they know what they're going through at home, and they can continue to work with that student outside our district, which we cannot do often when they go home. But the SRO is able to be that resource for them. And so we need a community.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza.
On to our next question. Besides attending a school board meeting, what can or will you do as a board member to hear parents, students, or employees' concerns? Mr. Barraza?
This weekend, I was in Guadalupe for Mayor Valerie Molina's community forum with the Sheriff's Department, who patrols the community. I very much value what she's created there. I think we need to be a part of those conversations, and you know, Tempe Union needs to be represented, and that's why I'm there, is because they need to know, they need to understand that we're listening. We need to be able to go to nonprofits around our community. We need to be able to build relationships. We need to bring them in. I think it's very important that we bring in as many people into our schools and our public schools, so that way they can support our students with resources. But as a board member, I think it's very important to show up, you know, whether it be in Guadalupe with the Mayor's Council, or whether it be with our student clubs when they invite us in. You know, those are very meaningful, and I really appreciate those opportunities.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza. Mr. Kingsley, you have the floor.
I think it's important to acknowledge that, especially during COVID and after COVID, there's been some division, what I perceive as division between the district, sometimes schools, and our communities. I think it's important to just acknowledge that. I think we also we could be better, continue to get better at communicating, being transparent about where we are in the process of making decisions. That helps create safety for our community members to speak up. Because I think they know and understand we're going to make mistakes, but if we say what we're doing along the way, that helps. I think we also need multiple ways of getting, or multiple procedures to gather information. So surveys are wonderful, but maybe we have forums in person, maybe we have Spanish-speaking ones in our communities when maybe they don't have internet
Please
access.
wrap up your thoughts.
That's pretty much it, just different ways to be able to gather the data.
Thank you so much. On to our last question of the night. If elected, what is the first goal you would set for the governing board, and how would you accomplish it? Mr. Kingsley?
I think continue going in the same direction we're going. Student safety and well-being is my #1 priority. I worked with freshmen and I worked with our English language learners. I saw the impact that COVID has had on my students' mental health. And I had students that were diagnosed with anxiety, depression. They really struggled, and sometimes it was with deadlines, and they were still dealing with their family members getting sick, or they had to have they were absent for multiple days, and sometimes that was transportation issues. So safety and well-being, both from a physical perspective as well as a mental and emotional perspective, I think is probably the first. But then also extending that to our teachers. A lot of the teachers that I worked with or that I represented with TSCA, they also have social, emotional, mental health needs that could be addressed.
Please
as
wrap
well.
up your thoughts. Thank you so much, Mr. Kingsley. Now on to Mr. Barraza.
Currently serving on the board, I'm working on quite a few things, whether it be teaching and learning or infrastructure. Infrastructure, for example, I'm looking at vote yes for the bond and override and district additional assistance. That's going to get us innovation in our classrooms. That's also one of the things I'm pushing, is making sure we're being responsible with our water usage. So as we're renovating our bathrooms, looking at reduced water urinals, we spend over 1 million gallons of water just in our bathroom usage, every year. And we can reduce that by 80% by swapping over our infrastructure as we're renovating each item. We can do it over a span of time so we don't have to be detrimental to our budget. When you look at disciplinary and being able to deter students into alternatives from suspensions, taking away classroom time doesn't work. We know that. It leads to a school-to-prison pipeline. I'm also looking at how we can recruit and retain teachers and how we can inspire them and make sure that they stay, with Tempe Union for the longevity of our other staff and learn mentor. We need to develop a mentorship aspect for that, for our teachers and staff.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza.
Thank you. May we get another round of applause from the audience? We will end our forum tonight with 3 minutes of closing remarks from each candidate. Mr. Barraza, you may go first.
Before we'll begin, just for timing purposes, we will give you one gavel at 2 minutes and 55 seconds. So you have 5 seconds to just wrap up your thoughts. Thank you, and enjoy your 3-minute speech.
I want to thank the students, first off, here tonight for putting on this forum. It's one thing that I attended at the first time I ran for office, and I look forward to it today. I think what you're all doing is amazing, and this is an aspect of getting involved in civics, and that I really believe that we need to do more of at Tempe Union. As a teen parent in Tempe Union, I was the first member of our TAP program, and seeing where it's at now is incredible. There's a lot of resources for students that are available that weren't available to a student in my situation. I was constantly in the disciplinary process because I didn't like bullies and I always interjected. And there was, zero tolerance policies for fighting. So we're well beyond those aspects. And now I think what we need to do is look at what we can do to innovate even further and make sure that maybe suspensions are a thing of the past in Tempe Union. That's what I want to continue to do. I want to continue to work with our students to make sure that you all have voices, that you have connections to legislators, industry leaders, that you guys have projects that you guys can work on in the real world. I want to make sure that our staff feel welcome, that they feel supported, that anything they need, they get a response right away, and we're working towards those goals. We need to build a community that's safe. We need to build a community that's thriving and innovative. And that's what Tempe really represents ultimately nowadays. It's very much an innovative community. And I'm looking forward, to be able to grow those programs. And I really hope to win a second term because I really do want to work on our water usage, our eco-friendly infrastructure, our student programs, our disciplinary, and our teacher support groups. So please support me if that's something that you feel that I can be valued for.
Thank you, Mr. Barraza. Mr. Kingsley, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you again, McClintock, for holding this forum. I think you guys asked some great questions. For me, education has really made me who I am today. Being autistic, I know what it's like to struggle with academics, particularly with math. I had to start at a community college to do my math credits. It took me 4 times to do intermediate algebra and pass. My brain does not work for algebra. So, and I also know what it's like to struggle mentally and emotionally because my parents didn't accept who I was as a transgender person when I started my classes at ASU. My grades started declining just because of the mental and emotional stress that I was in, and it was an ASU professor who really saved my life. She sat and she listened to me. She saw me. She helped me with deadlines to get caught up so that I went from a D to an A. When COVID, the impact then of COVID, I feel like in some ways I saw that happening with a lot of my students, and it made me really worried. So I really want to fight for student safety and well-being. It's so important to me on many levels, because academic achievement can only happen when the student is first feels that they're safe, that they understand that they're seen and heard, they're given space to be able to take ownership of their learning. And there are so many ways the district is already doing that, and I think there are ways we can help make that even better. Nobody really could plan for a pandemic, so we have to give some grace there, both to students and to teachers. And I want to fight for teachers. Teachers really need advocates. I think as a teacher, sometimes it feels overwhelming with all the different responsibilities that you have. You're caring for kids first, and then you have lots of meetings to go to, different curriculum things. You're really pulled in about 1,000 different directions. And there are things that will and do frustrate teachers. And I think they need to feel safe to go to administrators and feel like something will happen. I think they need to feel like they can go to the board. And I feel helping kind of build that relationship and that trust is really important. I think when people are overwhelmed and stressed, we kind of will sort of go inward and, as a silo, instead of really reaching out and asking for help. So I also want to fight for equality, because again, I think every student deserves a safe place to learn and be successful. So involving that community in the decision-making process, just bridging those relationships on all levels.
Thank you, Mr. Kingsley.
Yeah.
That will conclude tonight's Governing Board Candidate Forum. One more time, an applause for our two candidates. We would like to thank the candidates and the audience for participating in this forum. We encourage you to vote either on early ballots, which are out right now, at early polling sites, or at the polls on November 8th. Thank you so much for coming tonight.